Every time you open your phone, the feed is flooded with the exact same terrifying headline: AI is coming for your job. You see the charts, the mass layoffs in tech, and the self-proclaimed experts predicting a dystopian future where human labour is entirely obsolete. But I'm here to tell you that the popular narrative is fundamentally wrong. AI isn't going to fire you. It's going to do something much more subtle, much more exhausting, and arguably much worse. To understand the trap that is being set for us right now, we have to look backward. We have to look at the exact moment in history we were promised a technological utopia, a utopia that never arrived. Let's start in the year 1930. The legendary economist John Maynard Keynes sat down to write an essay titled Economic Possibilities for Our Grandchildren. Looking at the incredible trajectory of technological progress, he made a bold, famous prediction. By the year 2030, humans would be so productive that we would only need to work 15 hours a week. Keynes wasn't bad at maths. In fact, he was entirely right about the productivity gains. Today, a single worker with a laptop is exponentially more efficient than an entire floor of clerks in Keynes's generation. But he was tragically too optimistic about human nature. When we gained that extra time, we didn't use it for leisure. We didn't spend more time with our families. We just filled the void with more work. We invented new demands and new ways to be busy. But how does a 100-year-old prediction apply to ChatGPT, Claude, and the AI revolution happening right now? Because history doesn't just rhyme, it repeats itself on a loop. Just look at the late 1700s and the invention of the spinning jenny. Before this machine existed, spinning yarn was a slow, agonizingly manual process. The jenny came along and allowed one single person to spin multiple threads at once. On paper, this should have been an absolute miracle for the laborer. If you can suddenly do 8 times the work in the exact same amount of time, surely you get to clock out at noon and go home, right? Wrong. The factory owners didn't see a chance to give their workers a break, they saw a goldmine. Because the cost of production plummeted, the demand for textiles skyrocketed. Instead of decreasing working hours, the spinning jenny multiplied them. Workers were funneled into factories for grueling 14-hour shifts. They were tasked with managing more machines at a faster pace, just to maximize every single cent of profit. The conditions deteriorated, the air filled with dust, and workers were literally maimed by the fast-moving parts of the very machines that were supposed to save them. Artificial intelligence is the spinning jenny of the 21st century. It is a massive high-velocity productivity lever, and just like the jenny, it isn't here to lighten your load, it is here to multiply your expectations. Right now, a knowledge worker armed with AI can write a dozen emails, organize massive spreadsheets, and generate hundreds of lines of code in a fraction of the time it took just 2 years ago. But here is the insidious trap we are all walking into. AI currently only automates the busy work. It takes care of the mundane, repetitive tasks that secretly used to give your brain a micro break throughout the day. Formatting that Excel sheet, drafting a polite response to an annoying client. These were moments where your cognitive load dropped. When those gaps disappear, you are left with a workday composed of pure, uninterrupted, high-intensity output. This leads to a state of ultra-optimization. You are now expected to be mentally on every single second of the day. Your boss isn't going to look at your newfound efficiency and give you Friday off. They are just going to give you more metaphorical machines to manage. And if the AI glitches or hallucinates a fake fact and you miss your newly compressed deadline, you are the one on the chopping block. Speaking of being cooked by an algorithm, the only way to train the one you're interacting with right now to recognize that this is actual human useful content is by hitting the like button and subscribing. It is the only signal the machine understands to keep independent voices like this from being optimized right out of your feet. Now, back to the trap. You are going to be trapped on a corporate treadmill where the speed dial gets cranked up a notch every single morning. When the AI craze first hit his stride, companies panicked and started firing people left and right. But the quiet secret is that they are projected to rehire many of those roles eventually, simply because they realize an algorithm cannot actually run a company on its own. This leads us to 4 distinct possibilities for our immediate future. Number 1, we stay hired, but we mutate into hyper-orchestrators. In this scenario, you keep your job, but you are now expected to do the work of an entire department by managing a fleet of AI agents. You might think, well, that sounds great. The AI is doing the heavy lifting. But if AI does all the heavy lifting, your leverage disappears. Wages will stagnate because the perceived value of your individual labor props. Companies will invent entirely new, exhausting paradigms of work just to fill your 40-hour week. You will be mentally depleted managing synthetic employees that never sleep and never take a break. Number 2, the death of consistent hours and the rise of gig economy 2.0. If mega corporations realize they no longer need a bloated full-time staff to do the heavy lifting, they won't just fire everyone, they will transition them into precarious gig workers. Why on earth would a company pay a salaried copywriter, a junior coder, or a financial analyst with health insurance, pay time off and a 401k, when they can just hire a desperate freelancer on a digital street corner to clean up or fact-check the AI's output for pennies on the dollar? You will become a gig worker competing in a brutal global race to the bottom, constantly hustling for the next micro-contract just to keep your lights on. The stability of the 9-to-5 will vanish, replaced by a 24/7 hustle where your manager isn't even a human being. It's a nameless algorithm assigning you tasks based on a hidden optimization score. Number 3, the human premium divide. When AI can flood the internet with infinite emails, infinite code, infinite art, and infinite marketing strategies, the digital product loses its scarcity. Economics 101 dictates that when something is no longer scarce, its value trends towards zero. But there is one thing an algorithm can never ever replicate: the weight of a physical human presence. A language model cannot look a nervous client in the eye. It cannot read the tension in a boardroom. It cannot build the kind of organic gut-level trust that only happens when 2 humans sit in the same room. This is creating a human premium. On one side of the divide, you will have a tiny elite of tech architects and charismatic leaders reaping all the rewards of automation. On the other side, millions of former knowledge workers will be pushed completely out of the digital economy and into the empathy economy. We will be funneled into service, healthcare, and the physical trades, jobs where we aren't paid for our intellectual output anymore, but purely for our biology. We become the premium option simply because we are physically, tangibly human. Number 4, the breaking point and the forced reset. This is the only optimistic, albeit deeply chaotic outcome. The treadmill speeds up so violently that the entire system just snaps. Burnout reaches a critical mass. Furthermore, the global economy stall cannon because if wages stagnate and the entire is reduced to overworked, underpaid gig contractors, nobody has the disposable income to actually buy the products these ultra-efficient AI companies are churning out. This is where Keynes' prediction finally rises from the dead. Through massive labour movements, global strikes, the despec implementation of universal basic income, or strict government regulations on a new modern workweek, society is forced to adapt. But make no mistake, this doesn't happen magically because CEOs suddenly find their moral compass. It happens because the only alternative is total economic collapse. So, is AI going to take your job? Probably not, but it is going to take your time. It is going to take your peace of mind. It is going to take the corporate ladder and turn it into a hamster wheel hooked up to a jet engine. If you want to avoid this hamster wheel, you have to look for the gaps in the code. AI is, by definition, a master of the average. It is trained on the past, on what has already been done. To survive and stay relevant, you have to aggressively move towards the exceptional, the physical, and the accountable.